All right, I'm going to get started today. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to get started talking about loading listings. So, what is the most important thing we need to do now that everything's starting to get competitive? We have to make sure that our listing stands out, right? When you go on MLS, what is going to make somebody on the public or a realtor looking for their client, what is going to make them choose your listing? How do you make it stand out from the crowd? Okay. So, we're going to talk a little bit about how to load um, listings and how to make them stand out and how to make it really great on MLS and get it sold. Okay. So the first thing that we always talk about is real estate photography, right? It makes every house, condo, and cottage look like something out of a magazine. And it's hugely important for listings. Why? Because most of the time now, people are vetting things online, right? Everybody's on social media, everybody's online on realtor.ca, House Sigma, whatever. So it's more important these days more than ever that we're taking really good photography of our MLS listings. It's a small price to pay, and I know you have to put the money forward to your photographer for that and your virtual tours and everything. But people are vetting. That's the first impression that you have is that online impression of your MLS listing. So you have to be mindful that that is the first thing that's drawing them in, right? They're not going to buy the property unless they see it, but how do you get them in the door? Okay. You have to show the property to sell it. So how are we getting those people in the door? Okay, so amazing photos will get you clicks, add in detailed, clear, engaging description, and you just created a listing that you'll have your phone ringing. So the other thing we were talking about is I actually called somebody. There's a listing coming up, and I forget her name, Kathy Cook, I think it was. And the other important thing is our presence. How do we create excitement for this listing? So we see now that a lot of people are putting up their coming soons for the listing. So you have to start doing the groundwork before you even sign, like get the listing loaded. Once you get the signed document from your client, you have to really start creating that excitement. Okay. So the first thing you do is going to put your sign in the lawn and put it coming soon. Okay. Especially if your clients have said, look, I don't want to list for another week or so. I want to start painting. I have to declutter the house. I'm not quite ready. Right. You want to put the coming soon in the lawn because this is going to create excitement before you even put it up online. Your phone is going to start ringing. Okay. As per TREB, we have to put on that coming soon to MLS on our sign. Okay, so people know it's coming to MLS, but it's going to create two things. It's going to create the excitement for their listing, but it's also going to allow you to be the only one capturing the buyers right now. Okay, so your purpose, like I always say, a listing is more to you than just that one sale. Okay, you have to remember that a listing is very valuable to you. If you want to be popular agent, if you want to be a successful agent, you have to focus on being a listing agent. Okay. And I know I talk to a lot of agents and they say to me, I make more money on the purchase because very often on the listing side, we're forced to negotiate our commission. But when you list a property, you obtain all those buyers, right? When you work with one buyer, that's it. And when that buyer is done, you have to go and you have to find more business, right? When you load a listing, you have that listing. Everybody who calls you on that listing is not going to buy this house. So you're going to capture them as buyers, right? Your sign is in the lawn. So your name is known in the neighborhood and you're going to get other phone calls for people to sell your house that way. That's the only way you're going to get known. Otherwise, you'll constantly be chasing business. If you only work with buyers, you're like that secret agent I was talking about. Nobody knows your name when you work with a buyer because your sign is never in the lawn, right? Your listing is not online. Nobody knows your name. Nobody knows who you are. You could buy so many houses in the year, right? And like I say, the problem with that is that you're constantly chasing business. Okay. So I always say you have to start working on the listing before it's even loaded, before it's in even live listing, right? You're going to share it in your chats, your WhatsApp chats that you're on with other realtor friends, like the one we have here with realtors within the office. You'll use the strength of your Facebook, stuff like that. So before it's even listed. Okay. Once you load the listing on MLS, they say you want to include the right details. Okay. MLS systems almost always have a limit to how much you can write in a listing description. So we normally have like a 200 character limit in that description box, right? The sections for property and building features, like the number of bedrooms, the heating type, the exterior finish, and so on, don't count towards that character maximum. Okay. So what they're saying is use your description wisely. Okay. I find very often people double up and they have this opportunity to write to the public in their description something to showcase the property. And all they do is repeat what's in the listing. Okay. So if it's a 3 bedroom, 2 washroom, finished basement, that is already in the body of the listing. We can click that. We can click that there's 3 bedrooms, 2 washrooms, finished separate entrance basement. So when you get down to this character where you can write the description for your property, you don't want to repeat that because it's already in the listing, right? So you want to have stuff that'll draw people in, that make people excited for the listing, that make them want to come and see it, right? So these are just a few examples that they put in. An amazing, worth getting out of bed view. Its proximity to great schools, restaurants, coffee shops, cultural destinations, etc. Because that's something we can't choose in our pull down menus and our pre-populated sections in the listing. Luxury features like heated flooring, theater room, chef's kitchen, professionally designed closets, and so on. Recent renovations and upgrades. Okay. And with this, I very often like to put in the year if I can with my clients. Okay. So I would ask them, okay, great. You renovated. When did you do these things? Okay, in 2021, we completely did the kitchen. In 2022, we did all the washrooms. In 2023, we just did the roof. Okay. And I'll put that in the listing so they can see instead of me just saying recently renovated. Well, what's recent to you and what's recent to me? Maybe you renovated 2 years ago. That's recent. I renovated 7 years ago. I think that that's recent, right? So I like to put in the year. I think it has power there. I think people go, wow, look, it's only a year ago that they did the bathrooms, right? Or it's only 2-3 years ago they replaced the furnace. I won't have to replace it for a long time. So, I put in furnace 2019 or whatever the case may be. So try to get these things. And I'm going to show you guys the seller property information sheet today. So very often when we're loading our listings, we talk about it and I say, oh, I never load that. I never load it, but I very often bring it to my listing appointments with me. And I'll show you why for this reason when we're talking about renovations and things that they've done to the property. Environmentally friendly upgrades and features. So do they have solar panels? Is there something that's going to entice these people to say, hey, I'll be saving on my heating bill, or, water saving features in the house, faucets, stuff like that. What have they done to make it environmentally friendly or even cost effective for the people who are going to purchase? And brand names of high-end appliances in the house. So if you're including, Bosch, dishwasher or, 6 burner gas stove, something that's like high end, it's good to showcase that because those things have value, right? Okay, and then you have to set a scene. So the trick to writing a listing description is that sell is to make the property come alive. You need to contextualize the home's features and show readers how it could make their lives better. Sure, the remodeled kitchen looks nice enough, but why should a prospective owner care enough to see it in person? See, we're talking about drawing them in from online to see it in person. An additional bedroom over the garage is a lot of extra sleeping space, but what if the person reading the listing thinks it's too much room? Help them visualize it. So they're saying, instead of saying, oh, there's a chef kitchen, we're going to try to be creative with our writing. We're going to creative writing course here. We're back in high school. So serve gourmet meals with restaurant grade appliances and dinner space for 20. Okay. So somebody who likes to cook is really drawn in now. They're thinking, oh, I have all this space. I have upgraded appliances. I have room to serve 20 guests for my dinner party. This is somewhere I really want to go and see, right? Bed bath suite with separate entrance gives guests utmost privacy and comfort. Okay. Giving readers a brief example of how the space can be used can go a long way enticing them to see it in person. So very often you see, instead of saying finished basement, in the description, they might say perfect for in-law suite or rental potential or income potential or something. So instead of just saying it's finished, so people don't have an imagination, you have to imagine like the people reading your description have zero imagination. So if you just say finished basement, they're not imagining that they could get income off of it. They don't see that, oh yeah, that's true. I could move my elderly mother-in-law in, or my sister, whoever's living with me. So you have to sort of put that in their mind for them. Okay. Then we're going to use words that sell. So very often I find that people come to me in this office and we sit down and we write descriptions together. And it's fun because you have to, like I say, it's creative writing all over again. So you have to think of fun descriptions, right? Some words that have connotation, whether it's your intention or not, communicate certain things, good and bad. Okay, so you have to be very careful. Real estate agents need to be aware of how a reader could interpret certain words and phrases in a listing. To avoid scaring a reader away, steer clear of must sell. Okay. This doesn't necessarily steer clear the buyer, but I find must sell puts your seller in a compromised position because I'm going to think as a buyer agent that I could probably get a cheaper price. If you have to sell, you must sell, you're creating an urgency for your client. So you have to be really careful unless that's your true intention. You have to be really careful using that because it's saying that the seller is desperate to some degree. Okay. Vacant. This can mean the seller has already moved to another property. So I want to be very caution you guys with this vacant because I often talk about what we see on Stratus when we log in and what the public can see on realtor.ca when they log in. The occupancy is one of the private things, okay? And why? It's private for a reason, okay? They don't want you to know whether it's an own it, a tenant, or it's vacant in the property. They don't want the public to have that information. For this reason, yes, because it can again create urgency. It can say, oh, they've already moved to their next property. They must be desperate to sell the home. But it's also for a safety reason, hugely for a safety reason. So very often we get calls from complete strangers offline, they're viewing the property. They call us and they say, hey, they want to see the property. It is very important not to put vacant in your descriptions, okay? Because this creates like a safety concern because very often if people have a bad reason to meet with you, they know the property is vacant and they know that you're going to be coming alone to show them the property because you're the agent, right? So be careful. I'll caution you not using that for several different reasons. It's available to all realtors, but it's not public knowledge, okay? Good value. So good value says this home isn't that great. So, good value for the money, it's kind of like a not pumping the property up. Freshly painted. So that's about the only positive thing to say about this place. Freshly painted. So you're going to say, okay, well, the floor is crappy and it hasn't been renovated, but they freshly painted before they're selling. I might put freshly painted throughout if they took the time to paint the whole entire house, but if they just slap some paint on the kitchen quickly, I'm going to leave this out. Starter home. So it's so small and basic that only first-time homeowners want to live here or can afford it. Again, cozy is another one. Nice, cozy little house, right? Starter home, cozy house. Vintage. They're trying to be nice about the fact that this place is an old dump. So unless you actually have a heritage property or a century home, I wouldn't use vintage. And potential. Potential means it needs a lot of work, right? So you're looking at your handymans and your renovators, your investors, your house flippers. Potential is like one you want to steer clear of. Unless your intention is that you want to use these words though. Like say you do have a house in complete disrepair, you want to appeal to those house flippers, you could say potential, but you have to be careful how you're using it. Okay? Opening statement. So, they always say when you crack open a brand new book, that first, paragraph, those first few lines have to grab you to see if you're going to read the rest of the book. It's the same with your MLS listings. So a well-written opening statement piques the reader's interest and compels them to continue reading the rest of the description. The best summaries do the following. They get their intent, get the people's attention. They indicate value. So what's the value of this property? And they set the scene with high-level aspect of something unique about the property, such as architectural style or property location, right? So normally you see in the first opening line, they'll put the neighborhood, if it's a nice neighborhood, sought-after home in the prestigious, Oak Ridges neighborhood, right? And you go, oh, okay, this is a great neighborhood. Let me read further. So some examples of this are newly remodeled mid-century home, bright and spacious starter home, cozy bungalow in Seven Oaks, our prestigious estate with breathtaking views, right? To encourage your readers to call you, incorporate these things. So luxurious, lots of high-end touches in the house. Landscaped means the yard already looks good. Turnkey means you need no work done to the property. You can just walk in. There's nothing to do. Oversized, lots of room, spacious rooms. Private means, you're not stuck right up next to your neighbors. There's not a building peering in beside you. Your neighbors can't, see inside. Upgrades, so the home has a new feeling to it. Have they done upgrades to the property? And natural light. It's bright and cheery with lots of windows. Sometimes if you're stuck for a description, I find it helpful. Now, mind you, don't completely copy, but look up other listings that happen in that neighborhood. See what they say about the properties. Maybe there's something you're not thinking about where they say, beautiful Dean Park with hiking trails to walk to within, distance of the property. Something that you don't know, something that you're not thinking of. If you're completely stuck for a description, you might put that in there, right? And then proofread, proofread, proofread. Yes, the quality of your writing matters, but even in a short and casual listing description, bad grammar, spelling mistakes, inconsistent capitalization and formatting, they're all distracting to someone reading your listing. And even though a listing description isn't an essay, little mistakes add up, making your listing look bad. So I don't know if anybody's ever noticed in the office, I proofread most of your listings in this office. If I see a spelling mistake, I'm sure if a lot of you check the history of your listing, Christine has edited something. I don't try to change how your flair, your style, but definitely if you guys have a spelling error, or I'll never call you, I'll just go in the listing and I'll fix it. But you guys should be careful. You guys should be really careful of that. We're professionals. You have to proofread it. You're representing your client, right, in one of the largest transactions of their life. You don't want to make them look dumb. Okay, so even if you are unsure of spelling or your grammar's not that great, or if English isn't your first language or something, you know what I mean? Like, just send me the description. I don't mind. I'll proofread it. I'll help you guys, right? Because I go through all the listings anyways, and I proofread them and I check them and I fix them. So it's okay if we have a little discussion on your description. I don't mind. So always read over your stuff. Okay. And then the next one is avoid jargon. So real estate has its own language, I'm sure, as you guys are starting to learn, especially if you're new and you're online, you're going, what's GB&E? Or, what is HVAC? Or I don't understand this kind of thing. So besides the character limit for, something that the public will understand, like BDRM for bedroom, that's fine. Or with, the W/ is kind of common. Don't use the things that only realtors would understand, because the public is going to read it. They're going to be lost in translation. They won't understand what you're trying to say on your listing. So once you get used to those things between realtors, you can use them to shorten forms, but on the listing, I would caution you to try your best to stay away from it. Okay. How's everybody online there so far? Everybody's doing well. You got any questions? Okay, so I'm gonna just go into this seller property information sheet. Well, you know what? You guys didn't tell me I didn't start my video. You can't, I'm like, you got my Remax Ace logo there. Um, anyways, I'm gonna go to the seller property information sheet to show you guys. I think it's a great document. So now, like I've said before, it is something that's asked on every listing when you load, whether or not you have the seller property information sheet. I don't know if you guys have seen it there when you're loading the listing. It says SPIS. Okay. That is what this is. So we have the opportunity to load this on our listing. Okay. I, out of experience, never loaded on my listing. It doesn't mean you guys can't. You can agree to disagree with me, whatever. I, over the years, have seen that it sometimes gets our clients into a bit of trouble, because you're going to see, I'm going to go over it quickly. It does ask our clients certain information. And when we load it on a listing, we're providing that to the buyer, and the buyer is going to use it as a document that we wrote in, that we put something in writing to guarantee that the furnace was 2019. And maybe it wasn't, maybe it was 2017 and your client messed up. Okay. But I very often bring this document to listing appointments with me, because it helps me talk to my client about what the condition of the property is. Anything I should mention, it's going to help me write that description. So remember, we were talking about putting years for renovations and stuff. That's what it's going to ask them in this thing. So I'm not going to go over it totally thoroughly because it's pretty long, but as you can see, it starts off with the basics. So I have occupied the property from blank to blank. So what's this going to tell me? If she's like, I'm an original owner. Now, mind you, we can see that in Geo Warehouse, but this is going to help me when I write the description, because I'm going to say family loved home since 1975, right? So that'll help me with that. Does any other party have ownership or spousal interest in the property? So do I need someone else to help me sign this document? Is the property in a condominium or freehold property that includes interest in the common elements condominium, like a parcel of tied land, POTL? So it's going to help me think of these questions. A lot of the times I've seen agents load their listings incorrectly because they don't realize it's a parcel of tied land, right? So it's going to help with that. And then is the property subject to first right of refusal, lease, rental agreement, or other listing? So you just want to know if they're tied into any other rentals. Are there any encroachments, easements, or right of way, right? A lot of this you can see in the legal description. So this is the beginning of what it says, but then we're going to go down and we're going to see general. Are there any conditional sales contracts or leases? So furnace, hot water tank, things that I need to know for the listing. It surprises me when a lot of agents don't know the answer or they haven't asked how much, because even though, for instance, I try when I'm writing up an offer, for instance, for a property for my buyer, and you're the listing agent and you've told me there's a hot water tank and it's a rental. We always just put hot water tank because it's in the rental. But now we know that there's different types. They have the tanked one, which could cost you as low as $12, $13 a month. Or you have the tankless one, which can cost you as high as $60 a month. That's a big difference. And I want my client to have no surprises, right? So, especially as a listing agent, I want to make sure I know that information for the person purchasing it. I ask them for their documents. I say, I need your information, your rental contracts for your HVAC, your water heater. So I'm aware of the cost for that. You're going to be a knowledgeable agent, right? And then you also want to ask them if there's any other, sorry, I lost my train of thought, the contracts for the rental heater and all of that. Are there any other, liens or encumbrances on the property? What renovations they've had done recently? Here it talks a little bit about environmental. If you aware of any environmental problems, that's more for commercial. And then improvements and structural. So it's going to here talk about the structure of the building, and there any urea formaldehyde, which they ask for in the UFI in the listing when you're loading it. They ask you if there's any UFI in the building. If you have, here if you have fireplace, has it been wet inspected? Maybe we want to get a wet inspection ahead of time to help with the sale. If they're aware of any problems in the building. So it's just giving you a good idea of the property ahead of time. Okay. So while I might take this and I fill it out with my client and fill out all the information and find out what's going on, I rarely load it on my listing. Okay. Just because I find I don't want to take my client and make them liable to the public. But I want to take this information and help write my description really well and tell people what the value is in the property by finding out about the property. So this helps you think of questions. Very often, I remember what I was going to say. Very often you come home from your listing appointment and you go to load the listing and you're like, oh, I didn't ask them the taxes for the property. So then you call your client. You're like, can I have the tax bill? Right? And then you're loading the rest of the listing and you go, oh, I didn't confirm what the maintenance fees are for the building. So you call them back or you text them. And you're like, well, what does it cover? You know what I mean? So you want to make sure that you're taking all of this information, not only the seller property information sheet, but you're going to take your MLS data sheet, which needs to be signed from the office anyways. So I'm just going to go to that one next and show you the MLS data sheet. And you're going to take it along and you're going to check off everything as you're going along in the property. Because you can fill out a lot of it before you leave, like the legal description, the seller's names on the property, but you can't fill it out. You can't fill out, for instance, necessarily room sizes unless you have a floor plan, finishes on the property. If they've owned it since 1975, they might have done upgrades. Maybe it's no longer linoleum. Maybe they've upgraded to, porcelain tiles in the property. So you have to figure out what those things are. I'm just going to show you a quick overview of what the MLS data sheet looks like if you guys have never seen it, especially you newer guys. Have you guys been into web forms at all and checked out the kits and tried to prepare anything or practice?
I do.
Yeah, you guys can book some time with me. We can sit down and we can start doing that. So you learn how to create kits and you can practice for preparing for your listing appointments and stuff. And you'll get to see some of these documents in here, like the one I'm going to show you. So we're looking at the MLS data form. Let me just go down to Toronto here. So we'll say freehold. Where'd you go? Freehold sale. Let me just stop the share and come back to make sure you guys all see it online there. Okay, so you see here, like I was saying, a lot of this you can fill out ahead of time. The assessment roll number, the area is going to be, say, Toronto, the municipality, wherever it is, EO4. But then, you need to find out information from your client while you're sitting down with them. So this is good to have because it's going to remind you every highlighted area needs to be filled out and signed by your clients. Okay. So for instance, the taxes, you're going to ask them for their current tax bill, right? What's your current taxes for 2023? Can I see the bill? You're going to load the information on. The condo one would have the maintenance fees, okay? And then you'd have to check off what the maintenance fees cover. So when you're loading the listing, you have all that information, right? And then, of course, we talked a little bit. I just want to scroll down to the bottom here so you guys see what I was talking about. See here, we have that SPIS. You can say yes or no for SPIS. Very important, right? Document, like I say, I never load it, but it's there, okay? And then we were talking about the occupancy, owner, tenant, owner, partial tenant, vacant. Again, this is private information. You don't see this when you look at the listing. You guys should, just as practice, should pull up a listing on realtor.ca and pull up that same listing on Stratus. So you guys learn what's public information and what's not public information, right? Because God forbid if you ever get into trouble and you've posted one of those things and you've made it public info, what is private to us, that's a big no-no on your listings, okay? We have to also remember we're never allowed to advertise in our listings. So we can't put, please call Christine in the public section, okay? We're only allowed to put our information in the broker to broker comments. So I can say, please call me directly to talk about a disclosure. Please call me directly. Please email me directly the offers, right? But you can't advertise yourself in your listing. So on realtor.ca, what the public can see, if you have, please call, me today and give your number, you'll get a slap on the wrist from Trev and Rico. Okay. Anybody have any questions so far? You guys good? Okay. So we're going to just talk really quickly. We don't have much time left, but how can we increase traffic to our listing? So here we're going to talk about, we have a listing online and a lot of times we get, I have a listing online and it's not moving and I don't know what to do with it. So I was actually talking to one of our agents last night and he was pretty happy because he followed a little bit of my advice and his listing sold. So one of the first things I do is be really mindful. Don't be that agent that's just putting your listing up online and you let it sit, okay? When you put it up, if your listing's not performing, so but by performing, I mean if you're not getting showings, you're not getting interest, you're not getting calls, you're not getting offers, the public's not calling you, you've done something not necessarily wrong, but something that's not moving the public at this time. And that changes from whatever market to market we're in. So you really have to be mindful of what you're doing, okay? So the first thing is you're going to be really attentive of your listing. You have to follow up. So what I did is I had told this agent, I said, take your listing off, okay? Change the front pic, change around the description a little bit, throw it back up online and try a different strategy, okay? And he did that. And last night he was calling me, he was so excited. He's like, listing sold. I'm so happy. I can't believe that worked. So if you're that passive agent that just leaves it up and you don't do anything, your listing's not going to sell, okay? So be mindful. You get a week, no showings, no calls off the public, no offers, no nothing. You do something wrong. You got to go back. You got to revisit. You got to try and load it again. You got to try to change the listing, okay? So how can you create traffic to your listing? You can go mobile, like we keep on saying. We live in this, everything's online media world. So it makes sense that home buyers spend a lot of time looking at listings on the go. By designing a user-friendly mobile site, you can give prospective buyers a top-notch user experience that stands out from your competition. So we are very, very lucky. We have Stratus, right, that we're using. We're part of the Toronto Real Estate Board. I'll do some training on Realm in the near future. So I just did training on Realm, how to load our listings recently. I don't know if you guys saw that a couple of weeks back. Realm is come in to replace Collaborate. If you guys were using Collaborate before, it was a fantastic tool and Realm has only made it better. It gives us, we don't have to come up with our own website to make it mobile for our clients. It's a very mobile friendly user app where, the prospective searches we were talking about, Harry, that I was asking if you set up, you set them up in Stratus, right? Yeah. I think if you like that, you'll like Realm as well. So we'll do some training on Realm. You tried it? Okay, good. Yeah. It's very interactive. So what it allows me to do is it allows me to send you a listing. And unlike the prospect search, you don't know if they open the email, you don't know if they like the property. They can like it, They can comment on it right there. Hey, I like this one you sent me. Can I see this one? You can see if they've shared it, like if I've shared it, with, my best friend, I want to show my best friend this listing. Okay, great. I can see the interest and it's very interactive with your clients. So we'll try and go over some of that. So this is saying to create your own website. We don't even have to do that. We just need to learn a little bit about Realm, a little bit more. We'll do some training on it and you guys can use it for your listings. Okay. Build branding around your market. So it goes without saying that knowing your target demographic is important for digital marketing. Okay. So I have a very trendy condo, right in Dundas Square, where I might get like a professional couple who is like, doesn't need a car necessarily, a parking spot, they're working downtown. I need to know that. I need to know that this is probably my demographic that's going to buy this condo. It's not going to be the 80-year-old downsizing to a condo because maybe it's not the most accessible area for them. Maybe they don't like the hustle and bustle of being right there. So I definitely want to know how to market that. How would I market to a business professional? I might, throw it up on my network and LinkedIn, throw my listing up. I might, put it on Facebook, some kind of Facebook social page, someone who's going to read that. So an 80-year-old might not necessarily be on Facebook to see that, right? Whereas on the flip side, if I have a listing like my listing in Peterborough right now, it's more geared to an older population. So I have to think of what media are they using to view this property, right? I might need to do more of a flyer in the mailbox in that area so the elderly person could see it, right? So know your branding, know your market, know what demographic you're going to for the type of property that you're selling. Okay. And we talked about upgrading your photography. So that was touched on a little bit before, but I can't stress it enough. Professional photography, virtual tour. My regular photographer wasn't available for one of my listings, and my listing's been sitting a while. And I'm like, I don't know. I just don't like the fact that it's sitting. I actually got pictures taken again because I said, my regular guy wasn't available. I didn't get my virtual tour the way I like it. I'm used to a certain way of doing things. So I called and I got a second set of pictures done so I could throw the listing up fresh. So don't be afraid to spend that little bit of money. Once it's so hard to prospect, then meet a client, then get a listing in your hand, and then just sit and let it die online, right? So once you get that, you have to be mindful that you have to be active, always trying to figure out how to push it. So again, photography, big thing. I went and got the virtual tour and everything done. This is talking a little bit about goal for video. So same thing. You can do virtual tours, but a lot of people you have to get used to nowadays are doing their TikToks. They're doing their reels on Instagram. They're even posting little videos on Facebook where they're in front of the property, maybe a little walkthrough, a little description of the property, something that's engaging, and you have to be nouveau. You have to keep on top of the times of what other people are doing, right? Because they're grabbing the attention of everybody looking online. And while you might think, oh, great, I've got my listing online, what are you doing in addition to it, right? Put the social in social media. So we're talking about networking, being social. So all of you should have a Facebook page, an Instagram page. I know TikTok is not necessarily the most popular unless you're like super, super young right now, but my kids are trying to teach me how to use it. So TikTok is a good thing too. But you have to get out there. It's a great way to network. And you know what? 90% of the time it's free, right? Like if you have a Facebook page and you've got a following of 1,000 people and you post something on there, it costs you nothing, right? And it's not really that much to boost your posts. It's not a lot of money, right? But it gets you out there. KV Core now that's just come into our back office, that is allowing us to boost our listings as well. And I've heard some of the guys in the office, I personally haven't tried it yet, have had some pretty good success. They found as soon as they boosted it, they got more calls for that listing. So you want to try and push it like that and see if it gets you more interest in your listing, right? Use listing websites strategically. Websites like Zillow and Trulia have a bit of a bad rap, but when used strategically, they can help bring interested prospects to your website. Some buyers may look for properties before they look for realtors, so listing websites can actually be an effective way to get in front of these buyers. So I'm just going to click back here real quick. On our listing, when we go to list a property, it says here, distribute to internet, display address on internet, and distribute to DDF IDX, okay? A lot of times when you're sitting with your client, they're going to say, what the heck is all of that, okay? So distribute to internet, that's basic. Is it going to go up on the internet, right? Display the address on the internet. So are you to disclose where the property is? And distribute to DDF IDX. So that's the portal. And I'm sure a lot of you who have done your KV Core now got a little hint of it, but most of the time before KV Core, most realtors hadn't heard of what DDF IDX is. Basically, it's just the portal that everybody subscribes to. So when a new listing goes up on Trev MLS, it automatically gets funneled to those websites. So places like House Sigma, Zillow, they subscribe to the Toronto Real Estate Board. So they're not just like looking and loading our listings every day. It automatically gets funneled to their website, right? Now, this is great because it gets you really, really good exposure, right? You're on a whole bunch of different websites. People do just an organic Google search. It's coming up, your listing's coming up, Remax, and then MLS, and then, realtor.ca, and then Zillow House. So it looks like your listing's on a lot of different places, right? But sometimes you get the odd client who'll say no. Now, why would a client say no? Sometimes they've researched and they look up on House Sigma, and it happens in markets, even in the market we're in now. I think you guys, I think someone posted on the Remax family chat in the last day or so, a property that had sold for a lot more, but you saw the suggested price was a lot lower. When we go to these sites, sometimes the suggested price is lower. So our clients don't want us to distribute their listing on these websites, right? Because they want a higher price than what they're suggesting. Which doesn't always affect, but sometimes the clients don't like that. Okay, so that's what that's all about. And that's what this was talking about here. One second here, let me just go back. So it was just touching a little bit there on using the listing websites strategically. So it's pretty easy for us when we click that IDF DDX, it goes out on all of these websites and it's massively advertised. There's also the permission to advertise. So some realtors go, I don't want that person advertising. So what are the advantages? So the advantages of you advertising my property is you have other connections than I do. So you could probably bring me a buyer. But some agents don't want to advertise that listing because maybe I got, a $4 million listing in a high-end area and I don't want you advertising because a lot of times when we advertise, the public assumes it's your listing, right? So that's another part of the listing there. Don't leave your prospects hanging. So this is a big, big one, okay? I find that when you load a listing online, those phone calls start coming in and people aren't doing anything with them. They're not returning their phone call. They're not showing them the property, right? You have to be active too. We can't just rely on all the other agents to come and bring the buyer for us when we load a listing. So you have to make sure that all the prospects calling you, you're being very active. You're going and telling them that you'll show them the property and telling them all the information on the property, but that also that you're collecting them as your buyers if they're not looking at that property. Okay. Have a way with words. So, which sounds more appealing? Beachfront home must sell, or beautiful beachfront home that makes every day a Mediterranean vacation? Words matter, and they especially important for attracting buyers to your listing. So we talked about avoiding that must sell, motivated seller, unless it's exactly what you mean and you need to get going quickly on the property. Another way to move our listings and load our listings properly is to get involved in your community. So a couple ideas, if you sponsor a team in the area, you host a tour of the homes, host a happy hour, sponsor a DIY craft. I don't think I've ever done a DIY craft, but these are just sort of ideas how to be in the community because then you have other ways to advertise your listing, right? You have other venues to advertise, you have other groups because I think listings get lost in translation. So if you guys are in any realtor groups, even in just our chat in general or pages we get, I find I just ignore because we get so many. It's so saturated, right? Oh, another listing. Oh, another listing. But if you're part of another group that you're able to advertise in, like say you join the junior basketball league, you sponsor it and you're part of their Facebook group, you could always say, hey guys, I have a new listing and throw it up. And people pay attention because it's not something that's happening every day in that chat, right? And then you want to stay on top of mind after closing. So with your clients, this is just a little thing. You want to make them remember you so they use you again, so you have the opportunity to work again. So don't ignore them on closing day. Bring them a little something to their house, housewarming gift. Share content from your social media with them. Just leave them with a good feeling that you did a good job after the fact. Pardon me. Does anyone have any questions so far? Like I say, if you have a listing that's
Meaning,
not
meaning
moving,
of vintage, please.
sorry,
Vintage.
sorry,
Meaning of the word vintage. Vintage. Vintage.
vintage. Oh, vintage means old.
No.
Yeah, so if I'm wearing a
Thank you.
dress from like
Thank you. Thank you.
1970,
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah, if I'm wearing a dress from 1970s, I'd say it's a vintage dress, right? Like it's old school.
Classic. History.
Classic, yeah, classic, vintage, old, whatever. So the biggest thing I can say to you guys is if you're having trouble with your listings, just come and approach me. I don't mind helping. I am always open to help you with ideas. I'm always excited if I can get your guys' business moving. Don't feel like you're bothering me. Come and say to me, hey, look, I have this listing up. It's just not moving. Can you help me? Why? And I'll take a look at it and we'll try different things. Like I say, this other agent in our office approached me and I'm knock on wood, thank God it worked, right? Anything we had to say, we strategized together. We changed the description a little. We changed the front picture. We reloaded it. And right enough, within a week, he got an offer and got it sold. So feel free to approach me anytime. That's what I'm here for. I'd love to help you guys. Even when you're loading the listings, I don't mind reading the descriptions and helping you come up with something more flowery or something more interesting to say, or give you ideas of where to pull information for that listing for. All right, everyone. Everyone have a very, very lovely week. Happy Tuesday. I want no more rain this week. I am absolutely tired of the rain. I want some sun. I forgot to wear a jacket yesterday. And it was nice when I left the house, but in the evening when I was doing showings downtown, I was frozen. So I'm done. It's May. It needs to be nicer weather, right? July 29th, our picnic. May 17th, if you guys haven't signed up for Treb Realtor Quest, sign up. Shoot me a little text saying, hey, I registered and signed up. I just wanted an idea of how many people are going to be meeting at the office, if we're going to carpool or what we're going to do. So May 17th, we're all going to go in a big group. It's great. They have really good guest speakers. They have a free lunch. We get to go pick, there's like a little cafeteria area and a couple of different stations. We get to go pick our lunch. They're going to have swag. So like things we can pick up. They'll give out freebies everywhere. There'll be different booths that we can go stop at and see anything new happening in our industry, things that are coming out for this year. I think they're doing some speaking on Realm as well. I think there's a speaker the day we're going explaining about Realm. Um, so lots and lots of good things. There's actually one at 1 o'clock. If you guys look at the schedule, something about, oh shoot, what is it called? It's saying use your time wisely, work smarter, not harder. So I kind of want to see that what they have to say about that. Like give us some tips and tricks for not burning out and working so hard and making more money by doing that, right? So sign up if you haven't signed up and we'll all go as a group. That's on May 17th this month. All right. Everybody have a lovely week and I will see you Thursday evening. Goodbye, everyone.